A big day of racing coming up on the weekend, of course, with the 2 days coming out of Moonee Valley. And at the Valley, of course, we've got the Arcadia to look forward to on Friday night. And then, of course, rolling into the big one, the Cox Plate on Saturday. It's a great opportunity now to link in with Racing.com's Jayne Ivil. Jayne, very good morning to you there over in Australia. And, of course, a top morning yesterday held at the Valley with breakfast with the best.
Yeah, I think afternoon to you now, but it's still morning here. It was a fantastic morning yesterday out at the Valley. A great opportunity to get out and have a look at a few horses, go through their paces before the big race. Disappointing, of course, under the restrictions here that we couldn't have spectators there to watch, but still a great morning.
All right, well, let's get to the New Zealand interest, first of all, for the Cox Plate on Saturday, and that being Probabeel. A good opportunity for you to be able to see Probabeel with her racing being in Sydney. But also want to talk about she was a little bit keen and a little bit fizzed up when getting out onto the track as well.
Yeah, it was actually the first time I've seen her in the flesh, so it was actually quite nice to be able to have a good look at her. And in all honesty, she looks superb. I think the team over there have done an amazing job with her. She travelled down from Sydney, I think, on Sunday and apparently settled in to Melbourne really well. But she's holding her condition really nicely. Her coat is in superb order. So she's certainly a mare that's in really great shape leading into a race like this, and she probably needs to be. She was really interesting on the course yesterday. I think Connections will probably be quite pleased that they made the decision to take her out there, because she did get on the track and have a really good look around. She was very, very good out the back, did everything right, but she was actually the first horse out onto the track, and she went out on her own, and Patrick Payne took her up the straight, and she had a little bit of a diva moment where she decided that she didn't quite like the surroundings and didn't want to go forward. But thankfully for Patrick Payne, a couple of horses came out after her, and he could follow a few rounds. But even he said she had a really good look around, a good look at the stand, a good look at the winning post. But you've got to remember, at Moonee Valley, everything's so close, so it's so beneficial for these horses to go and have a good look around. And she worked quite nicely. I know the team went after time for her. They just wanted her to have a nice piece of work and have a good look around, and that's exactly what she did.
Yeah, and Patrick Payne sort of relayed that to you as well when you're able to catch up with him post the workout?
Yeah, look, he was really positive about what she did in the track. I mean, he said to me there were a few hairy moments at the very beginning, but as soon as she got moving, he said she just ticked all the boxes. She changed her legs brilliantly, and even though she had a little bit of a look around, he said she was really comfortable going around Moonee Valley, and he said she felt great. So always really nice when you can get those sort of comments off former jockey and trainer like Patrick Payne, because he knows exactly what he's talking about.
He certainly does. All right, well, let's move on to Arcadia Queen now, Jayne. Look, this is a horse I'm sure that you're learning about as well. Every time this horse goes to the races, and you're taking more notes down around her. What did you take from her piece of work there yesterday morning?
I actually think her work yesterday morning was some of the best work that we saw around the circuit. She does tend to want to work herself probably quite hard in her gallops, but she seemed to cope really well. I know that Grant Williams had taken her to Moonee Valley a few weeks ago and used her as a mate for one of his other horses that was racing, so she'd already had a look around the track before she arrived there yesterday morning. She's one that I think really hits her peak for this race. She's just been on an upward trajectory. I know that the team had a few issues with her early on when she came to Melbourne. She had a few feet problems, and they were probably sort of behind the eight ball a little bit in some of her earlier races. But look, she's a fit horse now. She looks outstanding. I just don't think they could have her looking any better for Saturday's race. She's probably the one that's going to as far as the Australian chances outside of Russian Camelot, she's one that I would be watching very, very closely.
Well, Humid or Jayne, I know that you've been really taken by the appearance of this horse throughout the Melbourne spring. What are the things we take away from Tuesday with Humid?
Look, he is a horse that just loves the valley. Like, if you go and have a look at his record around Moonee Valley, he's a horse that's really adept going around that sort of track. And as Craig Williams said, he grows another leg. He was a little bit keen in his work as well yesterday morning, but it was a nice piece of work. He's just a really revitalised horse at the moment. He's a very, very happy horse. I know he gets very, very spoilt in the Melbourne stable of Chris Waller's, and I think that's exactly how he likes to be treated. So he's one that you just can't discount because he gets to the valley and he puts his best foot forward, and he's got a reasonable record in the Cox Plate. We know a couple of years ago, probably when he was at his peak, he pushed Winks in one of her victories. So given the way that he's been performing leading in, you just can't rule him out. I wouldn't say that I would necessarily be really confident that he's a winning chance, but those punters that want to chuck him in their multiples definitely do that. Do not leave him out.
Well, let's talk about Russian Camelot now, because the horse wasn't there yesterday morning, Jane, but did gallop at the Valley on Saturday. I suppose the key things we want to talk around this horse is, where do you see him placed for the weekend for the Cox Plate? He's a runner that has drawn an outside gate. He was beaten last time to the races. So just tell me, first of all, your thoughts around Russian Camelot.
History's a little bit against him because no horse has won from the widest barrier jumping in a full field in the Cox Plate before. So Danny O'Brien didn't have a lot of choice by the time he picked a barrier draw yesterday. He was either going to have to go with 14 or 15, and he elected to jump from the outside barrier, which I think is really the right thing to do with this sort of horse. It means that they'll have options in where they settle in the field, and he's also a horse that likes a bit of space, so it means he's not going to get bottled up anywhere in the running as well. So even though we haven't seen a winner from that barrier, I think they picked the right barrier for him as a horse. What he will have, given the size of the field on Saturday that he didn't in the Caulfield Stakes, is a decent tempo, and I think that's what he needs. He's a horse that's still not probably fully mature just yet mentally. I think in 6 or 12 months' time he'll be the horse we all hope he is right now, but he does need to learn to settle a little bit better in his races. And if you go back and look at a lot of his early racing, he does do a lot of things wrong, and I just don't think he's quite the full package yet. So he will have speed on, I think, from looking at the field. The other thing that might play into his favour is the weather, and a bit of a warning to anybody that's having a bet over the weekend. We've got some rain forecasts, which could mean, and I know the forecast never ends up the way it's supposed to, but it could mean we could be running on a heavy track by the time the Cox Plate comes round on Saturday. So he's one that I think will handle conditions a little bit better than others. I'm a huge fan of this horse. Huge fan, and I haven't let go of him yet. I know that he was beaten on merit last start by Arcadia Queen, but that was not him at his best.
So, with you being a huge fan, is that your top selection, Jane, or have you really decided which way you're going to go for the Cox Plate?
It's really hard. I think if you said to me right now on paper who's the horse I would have on top, it would be Russian Camelot. But obviously, I haven't had the opportunity to see some of the internationals this year. Normally I would have been out at Werribee and seen the horses working and that sort of thing, but again, that just couldn't happen this year. So Aspetar and Armory are two horses that I haven't seen in the flesh yet. We know how good Magic Wand was out here last year, so it's probably really going to come down to, I'll make my final selection when I see them in the mounting yard on Saturday. But it's a very, very good field. It's a strong field. It's an even field. So I think the club will be pretty happy that this is the lineup they've got for their 100th Cox